Hello, my friends. Happy to be back at Eurovision.blog, and today I have a fantastic guest, Alexandra, who is the CEO of Thrilled Labs. Hello, Alexandra.
Hi, George. I'm so happy to be here with you, and thank you so much for the invitation. Cheers.
It's a pleasure for me, Alexandra, and please introduce yourself a little bit for our friends.
Of course. So, yes, as you rightly put, my name is Alexandra. If you want, feel free to call me Alex at any time. I'm Dutch by nature, but I live in Italy since approximately 8 or 9 years already. I'm in the Web3 space professionally since only a couple of years. Have been interested in crypto and Bitcoin a bit longer, from 2017. My background is mostly in studying a lot, I would say. I've got a couple of degrees in the social sciences. Also primarily worked as an entrepreneur in a completely different sector, in the hospitality sector. And today I run Thrilled Labs, which is a free and open access business platform for all those who are professionally involved with Web3. It's a startup really, and we're trying to rumble and to create a success. Basically, this is very shortly put. Maybe also interesting to note, especially because you might have a bit of a, I don't know, maybe German audience due to, your German, maybe language skills, is that I'm also involved, let's say, as a mentor with the Frankfurt School Blockchain Center at a couple of their scholarship-based programs. I've also been writing for the Cointelegraph and sometimes put an article or chapter here or there, more from an academic perspective when I have time out there. So that is it, very shortly put.
So you're originally from science and politics, and how did you get into the Web3 space?
That is a nice question. Yeah, it is sometimes a bit, I would say, almost paradoxical, right? That I got a couple of degrees in law, in international relations and European studies, even in politics and digital technologies. But fundamentally, during my law degree, and already also during my first master's, I got more and more interested in how technology intersects with societies, right? With economies, with societies more broadly, how it intersects with human rights, for instance, as well. So I started to study a lot artificial intelligence. I also wrote my 2 master theses on that very topic. And I actually came slowly to the conclusion that AI, whilst it's super, super interesting and a general purpose technology, if you want to put it like that, it tends to kind of excludes people. And meanwhile, I've been also really interested in crypto and blockchain and trading, especially digital assets. And I slowly realized that blockchain actually has so many opportunities and applications. And it's actually blockchain that is so interesting. It doesn't exclude people, it includes people. And I thought, no, this is actually the sector that I want to work in. So yeah, I had my eyes on joining the sector, and I put everything in motion to really contribute to Web3 in a way. And yeah, I managed to do so, luckily. So that's the short summary.
Please tell us a little bit of something about Thrilled Labs.
Yes, of course. I think because, of course, from joining the industry and, being a Web3 enthusiast that I am, of course, because I can't write code, right? I'm not a technologist. To indeed creating a startup yourself as a non-technologist, it's kind of like a step, right? So maybe it's important to say that once that I joined Web3, I worked on the business side of things at an amazing startup, these days based in the UK. And what is quite interesting to note is that, yes, Web3, it's all about tech, right? It's all about building applications. It's about automation, about peer-to-peer connections. But at the same time, I realized that Web3 is really built, and this is quite obvious actually, by humans. And that humans are collaborating with one another, doing business with one another, interacting with one another. And that fundamentally, that is a bit of a paradox, because I noticed whilst I was in business that there are a lot of inefficiencies on how we're finding each other, a lot of opportunity costs and inefficiencies, just to keep it in academic language. And that made me realize that whilst Web3 is great and so many awesome things are currently being built, there are some substantial problems underlying in how the humans find one another. And that made me actually want to realize that I wanted to create this own startup for myself, but also for the rest of the Web3 space, allowing everyone to find each other and interact, and yeah, all the other things that we hopefully enable.
So you got inspired by human being that we interact with each other because we are very social, we need the others, we need interaction. And is it right that this inspired you?
I would say that it inspired me, yes, but what inspired me more were the problems that I saw. And I think if you have a wonderful, I'm really convinced that today the economy and the society of tomorrow are being built, right? With all the decentralized applications, companies, DAOs, new types of tokens, new forms of having ownership. There are so many applications currently being built for tomorrow that we can't even imagine. Also due to blockchain's intersection with other emerging tech, right? Indeed, AI, IoT, and so on. And I was a bit bothered that this whole beautiful sector globally, yes, it's built by humans, which is not a problem because we're all humans, no one is perfect. But that then there are actually issues in terms of where you're based really matters for how much chances for success you're having. Who you know really impacts that. How big your team is, and indeed, if you have someone fully focused on business, really impacts on whether or not you can create those right connections and partnerships and funding and so on. And depending on what aspect of business in Web3 you're looking at, I see a lot of problems actually. And that is actually what inspired me to create this free and open access platform, streamlining interactions in a space and hopefully making that people lose less time, get these more clever connections and just can focus on building, really. That's the aim of all of it.
And now we were talking about the past. Tell us a little bit about your future with Thrilled Labs. What is your vision with Thrilled Labs?
That is a lovely question. I think fundamentally, one thing is where I want the company to go. And I would say that even more important is my vision as to how I hope to help other people. So just to start with the latter, I think that the vision that we really have with Thrilled is that we want to enable individuals globally. So regardless of their location, regardless of who they know, regardless of what they're building and who they are, I want to enable them to find that new investor, find that collaboration that they're looking for in the space, maybe even find that job that otherwise they would not have found. I want to really enable people to find each other and so that they can create new synergies. That's also why I've called Thrilled the app that is in the App Store and in the Google Play Store, the synergy machine for Web3. I want to enable others to actually work on their vision. And that is actually the core reason why, by the way, yes, we will monetize as well. We are a for-profit company, but why we are free, why we are open access, why from the very beginning also Thrilled is not only in the App Store, but also in the Google Play Store, which was of course more pricey to build, but not everyone has an iPhone, you know. I really want to help individuals globally. And that is the vision for now. And we will keep expanding that through growing Thrilled. So for now, we're an app. We also have a desktop version in mind. We're going to partner up with more and more events. I'm looking to include at some point a token-based model as well, NFTs. There is a lot of actually things in the pipeline, how I want to expand our offering and really be...
That's great. So your vision is to realize the vision of others with your platform.
Yeah, to help them. I don't think that just by offering a tool for people to connect, I can't possibly argue in full arrogance. I couldn't argue that I help them really or I enable them to live up to their vision. But it's just a tiny little tool, hopefully. That's all we want to be, a tiny little tool helping others to spur, to grow, to connect, to build. That's the thing.
So maybe you think it's a tiny little tool, but I think it's very powerful. It will help a lot. And I'm sure that such platforms will be needed. They are really required. And what inspired you to make yourself such a platform and not using, if it is existing, why not using an existing platform?
That is actually a lovely question. And you know, that ties in pretty well with the, I've touched already a little bit on the problems, right, that I observed in abstract terms, but I think that the existing solutions that make people connect with each other in the space are for lots of different reasons not good. Just to give an example, LinkedIn. It's a lovely platform, but again, it's not specifically focused on Web3. And by the way, God knows what happens with all the data that we are, you know, holding on LinkedIn. Now, I must immediately acknowledge that we are also a Web 2.5 platform, but I've put, as a lawyer, explicitly in our terms and conditions that, for instance, we don't sell our data. The data that is gathered on Thrilled is actually also hosted on a German server, so it's also full in accordance with the GDPR, for instance, not being exported or sold or analyzed. So there's the centralized kind of platforms out there that are, however, not specifically made for Web3. Another argument, of course, there are other connectors in this space, right? Imagine brokers that connect Web3 companies to investors. In my opinion, they are, and they are lovely people, they really are, and they are probably also usually quite well connected, but there are inefficiencies. And also here, they take a huge cut out of a deal that then is being generated between a project and an investor, and then the broker in between gets 5 or even sometimes 6 or 10%. In my opinion, it's an inefficiency, and it shouldn't take place, especially not in Web3, where we try to cut out intermediaries. There are a lot of different other platforms out there that do even matchmaking between companies and investors specifically, but also they always take a cut out of the deal, and you never know what happens with your data. If we look at partnerships in the space, in my opinion, as far as I know, there is not even a platform out there that facilitates partnerships in this space. There is not really a job-specific platform that allows job applicants to really put themselves out there. That is also then free and open access and streamlined. I mean, we're all of that. We just, I really like to see, and I'm obsessed that I am, of course, totally biased, right? Because it's our own platform. But there is no comprehensive, systemic solution for all the Web3 synergies out there that then also works ethically, transparent, and I would say that allows everyone really to have a fair chance. And that is what I've tried to build, really, for everyone globally, regardless of where you're based.
We were talking about ethics and private data. So let's go a little bit to due diligence, and how do you take care about security on the platform, and do you care about scammers? Do you beat scammers? Tell us a little bit about this, please.
Yeah, no, of course, George. I really appreciate, first of all, that you asked that question, because I think it's also important to be critical, sincerely, critical about all the applications that are being built, especially because we are, for now, Web 2, Web 2.5. And of course, we're building for the Web 3 industry that is obviously being created, right, to beat the centralized kind of platforms out there. So I think it's very important that you ask that question. Fundamentally, what I've tried to do is that whilst the platform is free and open access, we do actually require people to do a little bit of verification. For now, we're not asking anyone to connect their wallet. No, we just do it in the simple kind of Web 2 manner, just by providing an email and a phone number for now. That is a little bit annoying, I do have to acknowledge that, but we also must prevent that a lot of bots are joining the platform, right? And we don't want that. We want real humans. And I'm actually currently looking at more Web3 kind of ways to do this authorization, but that is probably for a next update. Then, and that's also quite important, we also have kind of like a mechanism in place that if someone encounters on the app someone who is quite clearly a scammer, which is most often happening, I get messages on LinkedIn and on Telegram, right, of these investors that are really interested in my company and want to invest and want to meet and want to jump on the call. You know, it's quite clear that they are actually not sincere and that they probably have something criminal in mind, illegal in mind. What we have is a reporting mechanism. So you can simply report to the headquarters, to the main office, that this person is a scammer. You can just create a small message like what happened, you send a screenshot, and then us at the main office, we look at it. We do require people to actually, create a message and a screenshot, just because we don't look in people's chats either. Chats are fully private and secure. So unless we actually have the explicit consent of people to look at what happened, we will never monitor anything. That is also quite important to say, by the way, from a privacy perspective. So that is the reporting mechanism. That is the authentication, pre-verification kind of level, as I already mentioned. And third, I do want to mention here that I also do quite believe in people's own responsibility and own agency. So especially in business, there are always people who promise a lot that don't deliver, who perhaps indeed want to scam you in a way, who are not sincere. And as a third almost mechanism, I would say that I also think that it really, especially for entrepreneurs, that we also have our own responsibility to make sure that we always do due diligence. You want to be an entrepreneur, you want to work in business, especially on the global level, you must always be sure that you do business with the right type of people. So what we try to do as well is that we set up some documentation. We will also, oftentimes create educative type of initiatives. We will organize networking and roundtables really soon, starting from the end of November, beginning of December, where we also really try to engage with people and teach them where necessary, because of course lots of people already know these things. We will try to educate people also in that regard, right, about this own responsibility, how to recognize bad business practices and so on. So those are for now kind of the three pillars out there. In terms of how we try to combat scammers. Maybe the last thing I will add is, again, that we have quite constringent terms and conditions that allow, I think, users on our platform to sleep well at night. This sounds a bit salesy, but I've been quite involved with creating all this documentation, and I really want that people feel safe on the platform, that they know that we're not, looking in their chats or doing other types of unethical things that are, in my opinion, contrary to Web3 and business. So
that's very important. And many startups forget at the beginning to take care about security and legal stuff.
Yeah.
And that's very important. And you fix that problem at the beginning for them, and that's really good. For the people from Europe, are you allowed to say where your servers are based for the GDPR question?
Yeah, of course. So thank you for the question. I explicitly chose for a German mid-sized cloud provider. So our clouds are based from out of Germany. And we don't work with AWS or any of the big hyperscalers out there. In theory, also those companies are bound by the GDPR, but based upon my research, you see in practice that the bigger hyperscalers out there don't always live up to the standards that are put in place by the EU. So we specifically chose for a small German one. It's a bit more pricey, I do have to say that, but I prefer to be transparent and to be sure that nothing bad happens with people's data. And again, we also don't look into that. So German.
And that's really worth it. Thank you, Alexandra. So. That's really great. Thanks for your insights and telling us about your vision. It was really great. Do you have a sentence for the end?
Oh gosh, no, of course, if anyone who's listening or watching actually is professionally involved with the Web3 space and is looking for, partnerships, a job, investment, maybe looking to invest, maybe just connecting, right, with people locally in a new city, because we didn't even touch upon that, but Thrilled also works locally. So whilst it enables people to connect with each other regionally or locally or based on the continent, we welcome everyone, really. And that is quite important to say. Even you can find us soon at a lot of different events that we're partnering up with, because Thrilled also works as an event networking solution due to the fact that we work locally. So I would really invite everyone to join the platform. And also, and this is maybe the most important thing, let us know what you don't like about Thrilled, so that in our next big update, we can actually build what you want and what you like better, because we must always improve. And yeah, we live on your feedback. So yeah, please join and let me know what you think.
That's really great. And we know that networking is becoming more and more important now in the times of scammers and AI deepfakes. So networking is really important, that we can be sure talking from person to person. Thanks a lot, Alexandra.
Thank you very much indeed, George. Thanks for the invite. It was lovely. Cheers.